I'm Anil Kumar. Welcome to my YouTube channel and the website Global Math Institute. Let me thank all the viewers and subscribers for watching my videos. With your suggestions, we have been posting a video almost daily to meet your requirements. My passion of sharing has helped me come a long way now. I'm really thankful to all of you. We have a new approach now, and that is discuss some test papers. Now, I know this is a popular approach, but we never followed this path in past. We were always for concepts and foundation. Now, with more than 20,000 videos, I think we should look into popular demands. So one of the popular demand was to have a test paper on rational functions. So in this video, I'm going to share with you a complete test paper of my student. There are 7 questions in this test paper. Rational functions. It is a very important topic for pre-calculus, a part of advanced functions here in Canada. Well, in case you want to learn from me, you can always send an email on the address given. Now, in this particular video, we'll discuss few questions, but share all the questions from the test paper. And these questions are from the topics like graph function and reciprocal. Very first chapter is reciprocal function. So a question related to that. Then we'll discuss domain, range, and characteristics of rational functions. This is a part of each and every question. You need to figure out the domain, even if it is not asked for. Even when you're solving equations and inequalities, remember, restrictions cannot be part of your solution, correct? Now we'll talk about questions with oblique asymptote, vertical asymptote, horizontal asymptotes, and holes. So we'll have a sketching problem or describing a given equation to understand, or rather test your knowledge on this topic. Then we'll have rational equations. As I said, in equations, you should always try to check your answer. There could be extraneous roots. And then we'll have an inequality. Now in this test paper, we have inequality combined with absolute value function. Now that is a challenging question, and I hope you find this question interesting and useful. Those who take up calculus, for them, this test paper, and especially this particular question, should be of importance. And then a application word problem. Always there is one, and here we have one with rate. So let's see the type of questions we have. The very first question is to sketch the graph of x squared minus 2x and its reciprocal, right? So that's the question from the test paper. Question number 2 is now sketch graph of another function. Rather, in this particular function, we have to discuss about asymptotes and holes. Well, that is part A of question number 2. Part B is another rational function, where again, you have to discuss the asymptotes, discontinuities. Okay. Then in question number 3, we'll have a question to discuss complete characteristics. It is quotient of linear functions, right? That is the second chapter of this particular unit. Once you do that, we'll look into question number 4, which is solving rational equations. Relatively simple equation to work with. However, it will be of prime importance for you to pause the video and solve this now. Question number 5, as I said, is of inequalities. Interesting inequality. You cannot cross multiply, you understand. Do you know why you cannot cross multiply? You have to bring all the terms to one side to solve this particular question. And then the last question, rather the second last, is a word problem, which is based on work done. And then we have the last question, which is a thinking question in this case, where we have absolute value of rational function greater than equal to 3. And of course, there is a restriction that x cannot be equal to 0. So these are the 7 questions. I'd like you to pause the video at this time, answer them one by one. Well, in case you want to learn from me, we conduct Zoom classes, right? And then you can contact me on this particular address. My students do fairly well, some of them being right on top of their class, getting the best scholarships like Akshat.
After attending university. The winner of this year's Certificate of Achievement Schulich Leader Award is anil.anilkhandelwal.
Great. Our student Akshat gets highest marks and the most prestigious Schulich Leader Award. You can be there. Join our classes and excel. So now, let's begin with the solution of question number 1, which is graph f of x equals to x squared minus 2x and its reciprocal on the same set of axes. So once you are given the function f of x equals to x squared minus 2x, quadratic function, best part is just to factor, right? So when you factor out x, you get x minus 2. Clearly, it gives you two zeros, which we are looking for. The two zeros are at x equals to 0 and at x equals to 2. So we have x-intercepts. So x-intercepts are when these factors are 0, which is at x equals to 0 and 2. So these are the x-intercepts. We know x squared minus 2x is a parabola, which is going to open up, right? So we need to find the vertex. Vertex will be right on the axis. So we can first find the axis of symmetry, right? So let's find axis of symmetry, which will be midway between these two. So add them up, divide by 2. It is at 1. So basically, substitute 1 here and find the y value. So if I substitute 1 here, what do I get? 1 minus 2. 1 minus 2 is minus 1. Correct? So we are quickly going through this since these are the steps which are well known to you, right? So what I'm going to do here is draw the axis, correct? So that is the axis for this particular parabolic function, and then we'll mark the vertex, which is at 1 minus 1, right? So this scale 1 is there and then minus 1, correct? So that is our value. Now, since the step is 1, if I move 1 unit to the right, I go 1 up and then 3 up. But anyway, what we could do is also find the value of the function 1 step on the right, which is at 3, right? So let's calculate the value of the function at 3. So we get 9 minus 2 times 3. Let me rewrite this as 3 squared minus 2 times 3, which is 9 minus 6 or just 3, right? So at 3, we have a value, which is 3. So which is, let's say this is 3 for us, right? So 3 and 3. Okay. So there we go. And from the symmetry, we know 1 unit on this side will also give you that question, right? So we can connect these points and sketch our graph. Correct? So parabola, basically you have to give this a round thing, correct? And then connect these points. So let's go like this. Okay, so there we go. So we have our function, which is f of x. So we have done the first part of this, which is to graph the function f of x equals to x squared minus 2x. Now on the same axis, we have to draw the reciprocal. How do we do that? Let's try to see it on a fresh page. So what we have done just now is we identified critical points, and based on that, we actually sketched our graph, correct? So we had at 3, we had 3. Correct. So we'll just sketch this graph. So that's the parabola. I'm now writing this as f of x. Now let us see how do we sketch the reciprocal of this function. Okay. Reciprocal of this function, let's call this as g of x, which will be 1 over f of x. So whenever you want to sketch the reciprocal function, first part is to identify the x-intercepts, which are known to us in this particular case, and these are your x-intercepts, right? So at this x-intercept, reciprocals will be vertical asymptotes, right? So we get vertical asymptotes. Mark this clearly, label them, right? So we can label this as x equals to 2 and x equals to 0, right? So that these are the two vertical asymptotes. Now identify the point where the function value is 1. Now the function value is 1 at which point? So you could actually calculate here, or in your graph, let's say this is your 1, right? So these are the invariant points, correct? So at these invariant points, positive reciprocal is positive, correct? And negative reciprocal is negative. So we'll get a graph which will be kind of like this. So key points are that on f of x, you have to see for x-intercepts, and then on g of x, these will be vertical asymptotes. And we have two of them, one at x equals to 0, the other one at x equals to 2. And then we have invariant points. Invariant points are those where f of x is equal to plus 1 or minus 1, correct? So on the other side, we know that the minus 1 is at the vertex, and therefore the function will be like this. Do you see that? So that is how you are going to sketch the reciprocal function. Perfect. So when f of x is approaching and going to infinitely large value, then g of x is going to approach to 0. Now since it is going to positive infinity, then g of x will go to 0 from positive infinity, correct? And therefore, we have a horizontal asymptote which is y equals to 0. Makes sense? And also, you can see the behavior near the asymptotes, which you can clearly see that when you approach these x-intercepts from inside, let's say 0 from the right hand side, it approaches negative infinity, correct? Now, all this said and done, I'd like you to pause the video and write down the characteristics of the reciprocal function, right? So that'll be interesting, especially the end behavior. So let me leave that for you here. You have to write down the end behavior of reciprocal function. This end behavior gives you horizontal asymptote, which I was saying is y equals to 0. But you should explain it as I tried to explain. Also, you should discuss behavior near asymptotes. That is to say, when x approaches 0 from negative side, then y approaches positive infinity. But when x approaches 0 from the right side, then y approaches negative infinity. Like this, you have to describe it. This is very important when you're really preparing for unit tests. You get the idea. So the idea of having a question here is kind of review the concepts on a particular chapter in the unit so that you understand completely what is expected of you when a question comes from that particular chapter. Is that clear to you? It is a common question. You will be given a function and you have to draw its reciprocal, defining many parameters, right? In this particular test paper, they have explicitly not written any, but they have only said sketch the graph. But sometimes you have to describe, and then as I have given few details here, these are bare minimum, right? At least these details should be provided. So I hope you understand how should we answer a test question to get full marks. Since many students complain that they knew everything, they answered, but they did not really get 100% marks. 0.5 was deducted for some reason or the other. If you follow the steps which I am going to discuss or which I have already discussed here, you will get 100% marks. Writing these kinds of answers is a must. I hope you got what I'm trying to tell you. Perfect. So with that, we come to an end of this particular video. I hope you understand and appreciate it. In case you want to learn from me, you can always send an email on the address given. Thanks for your time and all the best.